Thank you so much for the warm welcome and invitation to be able to speak to you about my passion. So I decided today to really share my experience working with the older person and try to convey my learning from the eyes of the older person. So I started to being involved in the aging field. I was 25 years old. I visited my grandmother in Japan in nursing home. I visited, I asked the staff at the entrance that, I'm here to look at, to visit my grandmother. Where's her room? Her name is Tatsuru Uno. And they said, oh, what's her room number? And I said, I don't know. It's Tatsuru Uno is my grandmother. And they said, oh, we don't know. If you don't know a room number, we don't know who you're talking about. And I finally, they discovered my grandmother's name. And then all of a sudden say, oh, the 14B, the person had a bowel movement this morning. They ate 70% of the breakfast. And she is this and that. They knew everything about my grandmother's physical condition for all day. But they didn't know about my grandmother's name, which was really motivated me to really think through what older person's care means. So that's where my starting point was. So that was many decades ago. And I've been working on aging and design for a long time. So this is one of the photos that I took from my community project. It's called Ibasho, which I'm going to introduce to you later. Interestingly, when I talk about this older person and environment, people said, oh, your photo doesn't look sad. I get these comments a lot, actually. Where is a sad older person? And I said, well, that's a problem that we really have to fix, because the older person nowadays are not very sad-looking, problematic populations. We are always working with older people with a lot of energy and a lot of wisdom and experience. So I wanted to talk about like 3 issues today: demographic shift, climate change, and co-design. I have some statistics to go through so that maybe you have better understanding about why we are doing this climate change and demographic shift and co-design. But I am sure that many of you are familiar with statistics, so bear with me. Whatever that I'm repeating it. We all know that the number of older people are going to be growing so fast globally. And the fastest growing segment is actually over 85 years old. Means that we really have to think about caregiving issues for that age. And we have more older people in 2050. Singapore, for example, 2030 will be about 19 to 20% of population in over 65 in Singapore. Can you guess what the percentage in 2050 is like in Singapore? 40.2%. Means that almost every other person you meet over 65. So when we talk about older people's environment, sometimes I go to hospital design places. They say we are going to create geriatric ward. You really have to think about half of the hospital wards to be geriatric ward. But we're really not thinking beyond what we have at this moment. That's the problem. So the population is, this is a population change, shift in Asia. It's the same, we have smaller number of children between 0 to 14 because of the low birth rate and extended life expectancy, and the older people segments are really growing. So this is just an example. We have this orange line is a life expectancy. The blue line is a fertility rate. So, we have less children and more older person, basically. And the Asia problem is slightly different from other parts because the speed is so fast. So to get to 7% to 14%, France, it took almost about 100 years to get to it. And Japan, it took about 25 years to get to this. And this is a Singapore. It's less than 20 years to get from 7% to 14%. What's the problem? Because we have, when you see this, these are relatively high-income countries. They had the time to prepare and they had resources to be able to do this. But Asia, many countries get older before it gets rich. So, we really need to have innovative ideas how to actually solve this problem. It's another one. We just had a symposium last week, a few weeks ago. The fastest growing segment is solo aging household. So a lot of older people are getting older by themselves, especially women in middle to lower income country. There are growing number of solo older women. Again, we really need to think about the solution, how to deal with this. And another issue that I wanted to highlight is dementia. We all talk about dementia, but we have very little solutions. But the situation is quite serious, actually. And it's every 3 seconds, someone becomes dementia, right? Every 3 seconds, which is quite shocking, actually. And the growth of dementia is really fast. Normally, people are saying that when people get older, people live longer, you have more chance to get dementia. So because life expectancy is growing, that's just kind of the people with dementia is growing. And interestingly, why do you find the people who are dementia? Half of the people who has dementia are going to be residing in Asia. Again, this is going to be something that we all have to address. This graph shows about the absolute number of older persons. You hear about Japan, Italy, Greece, Spain has higher percentage of older people. We don't hear much about Africa. We don't hear much about South America. But when you look at the absolute numbers, this is a higher income country. This up here is lower to middle income country, means that majority of people who are older 65, absolute number-wise, they are living in middle to lower income countries. So, those are the issues that we have to deal with. And we have climate change issues happening. So a lot of older people are affected by the heat and also water rise and all the other challenges that we face. I'm just going to go through it. I have a feeling you probably know all these numbers, or should I go through? So it's not only about heat, or it's not only about the natural disaster that hit people. It is, that creates infections and that creates a different type of indirect impact to the older population. And when we there is a statistics that I've been hearing, I couldn't really find a nice graph, but the major disaster like Japan's earthquake, we had Sandy in New York, we had Katrina, we had other big disasters. The over 65, over 50% of the people who are affected or die are over 60 years old. So we really have a lot to think about to adjust our way of thinking. So what we have done, we just try to create nursing homes or create a place where we look after the older person. This is a care needs high to low. This is institution to home. So if you go up, it's a lot more homey. This one is institution. Before we had, when you get sick, what happens? You are taken care of by acute care, at hospital or at home. And this became a problem in the US. So nursing home happened. So skilled nursing home just try to look after the older person. And it was, it was a movement that the institutional care was not very preferred. So it was diversified with CCRC, senior housing, assisted living, and adult daycare to be able to accommodate the elder care needs. And the newer approach to make community into it, we have Livable Community Center, and NOC, which is naturally occurring retirement community happens. And co-housing has happened to really try to diversify what older people can actually age in place. So when you look at Japan, it was the same origin. And then skilled nursing and healthcare facility for elders means that it's a hospital where older people live, because some of the family members don't want to say, my parents are in nursing home, they're in the hospital. So that was a problem. And it's a similar way. We have senior housing, private CCRC, a care home, and adult day center to look after the older person. And they had a community cafe. There are many of them in Japan. And Japan just tried to provide a community-based integrated care so that people are connected to the community. This is how elder care and housing evolved over time. My question is, so we have done to meet physiological needs and safety needs. What about belonging and self-esteem and self-actualization? What are we doing? Because in the past, it wasn't really address the needs. So my question is design for purpose and meaning. How can we do that? That's why I feel like the core design comes in. So this, I would like to share my work about Ibasho, which is to empower older people to create the community where they can actually contribute back to the community. So this one I founded in Bhutan. It's supposed to be a happiest country in the world. I don't know if it's happening still. It was many years ago. I was designing a senior housing for senior monks. And I was very surprised that being a monk I thought it was occupation. But they retire somehow in Bhutan. So we wanted to create this housing for the monks. And I was walking down the street. This was what I found. It's a banner says, the time to be happy is now. The place to be happy is here. The way to be happy is to make others happy. Really, to me, that question about how to design the space for meaning, it is not about ramps. It is not about grab bar. Then what? So I found Ibasho, which is about 2000, I started to think about this right after I graduated from my PhD, because I was designing hospitals and nursing homes. And at one point at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was so tired. And I'm thinking, my goodness, I'm working on this design project where no one wants to go in. And I'm doing this for many years. Why can't we just do something different? And I also realized, I don't really know. I've never been 85 years old. I was like, I don't know how they live their life. And I just wanted to know about what they wanted. That's how the Ibasho started. So I just simply wanted to create alternative to what we have, so that older people can actually use their valuable asset to the community, which is experience and the wisdom that they can share. And their life experience and wisdom benefit younger generation and help strengthen the resilience of their community members. When I was working on this, the Japanese earthquake happened. So the first site became in Japan, actually. So what we do through Ibasho, we challenge prevalent, mostly negative perception of aging and empowering older person to create physical space where they can assist community members for all ages. Again, going back to Bhutan's quote, I really wanted to see how we can create opportunity for older people to help others, because that makes them happy. I think when we think about ourselves, it's the same. 10 years old, they just want to share their chocolates and candies. 80 years old, they want to share this maybe rice crackers that grandmother has. But I think people will always like to be useful to others. That really makes people happy. But at a nursing home, like my grandmother had no role to play, but being an object, being called by the numbers. I feel like we just really need to change. And also when you look at, this is a real picture I took where they were there. We walked on the Ibasho, which was the place where it's older people actually run to provide. They have a cafe, they also have ramen noodle shop, they have farm, to really run it themselves to contribute back to the community and its benefits to the younger generation. It was about 15 years ago, and I was told by the founder, like a donor, Emi, you're making older people work. You better stop. And I said, well, older people won't do what they don't want to do. And look who they are. You know, what we are dealing with is the kind of older person here on the picture. You know, we actually made this exercise bar for high school children, and the bar, and the chair for the older populations. When I go every single time, the person who exercises are 70, 80 years old men, and high school children are playing video game at the bench. But it makes you laugh, but at the same time, our social policy hasn't changed much. So we really have to change our mindset and change the policy so that we can actually meet the needs of older person right in front of us. And we all here, this is a younger crowd than normal for me, we all gonna be there actually. It's just that you cannot really avoid aging. And okay, we have AAC, we have senior center. Do you have any of the AAC or senior center that you wanna go to when you get older? Or nursing home, you can't wait for your time to come for the nursing home residency? The thing is, I've been involved in this field for 30 years now. 30 years, you will think lots of things change. It's not really. So if we don't do anything, if we don't take action now, what we see in 30 years when we need our own care, we stuck with what we have now. So I really wanted to start to do something. We have two choices. One, try to do something. Two, don't do anything and wait for your time to come to the space where you can see now, right? So the solution is basically, when I started Ibasho, the solution, we want to empower and include older person to co-develop community hub where they can find opportunity to contribute community members for all ages. Again, going back to the Bhutan's quote, we really wanted to just get to the core of it. Why we are doing this even. We're doing housing design, we're doing technology design, we do research, we do all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, we want older people to be happy. And what makes them happy is to give opportunities. But we don't do it enough because we are so busy look after the older person because we want to be the one who is very nice to them and taking their social role away. So what we try to do, we look at older person as a resources who can actually care for someone, and they are the change agent. We're not changing for them, but they are the one who is change agent. And catalyst to strengthen the social capital, because when I was working in Japan, for example, I wanted to know about something, and older people always call their sons, wives, friends, uncle, and just make things happen because they know everybody in the community, but we don't pay attention, we don't value them. And we just try to co-create community-owned resource hub and self-sustainable operation and create a space with meaning and purpose. So in Japan, we created this place and started 2011, and it's open 2013. This place is open and is operated by themselves for about 12, 13 years. We don't even put any money. They want to do it themselves. And people always ask me, like, how do you do it? And I said, look, they used to run company. They used to teach at university. They know how to run places. Why do you think that older 65, all of a sudden, you have no role to play? If we just expect them to do it, they actually do. And people always ask me, so do you do training? We don't. Because older people already have a lot of values and experience. So what we want to do is to unlock the potential of the elders. What we try to do is to create and implement this 8 principle. This is actually learned from older people's voice. And this is the kind of place they want to live and they want to have their own hub. The first one, principle 1, elders' wisdom. Older people are valuable assets to the community in this place. Next one, everybody wants to be normal place, not institutional. Principle 3, people don't want to be out of nowhere. They want to be where the action is. And principle 4, it is a bit challenging, but it is very important. It's owned by community members, not organization run for them. And principle 5, multi-generational. We try to avoid age segregated. And the principle 6, culturally appropriate. And principle 7 is to make the space resilient. And principle 8 is embracing imperfection. To me, the embracing imperfection is quite important because we try to create, just perfect moment to create the perfect place, but it will never happen actually. So we just want to create something that we try it and making it improved. So what makes it Ibasho? We are trying to treat older persons who are someone who has asset to their community. So implementing Ibasho, and also the process has to be led by older person. Elders' leadership have to be there, and activities are not for them. They actually do activities for younger people. And the places are in the place where everybody is. So this is Ibasho's simple process. It normally takes about 18 to 12 months, 20 months. We start with exploration of the phase, place, and the pre-project phase, which is we talk to the community members because we don't want to make them work really. And the community members, if they want to do it, we will help. And we develop shared vision together, and we create the program, and then we design the space. And lastly, we teach people to run the space sustainable. So we do not run the place. So Ibasho, when we develop, we don't run it. It's just community members run themselves. And this is a decision-making tree. Basically, we have Ibasho's core members supported by us and local partners. By the way, Ibasho cannot do without local partners because we are not local. We don't know how to do. We don't have a connection. So local partner Ibasho work together to create the Ibasho committee members, and they do everything. So we support for them to negotiate with city. They negotiate for architecture permit. Everything is done through the community members. So basically, there are 3 components to Ibasho. There is a physical environment, the place, and also social environment, which is ideas and program, and it's tied with Ibasho principles. So one in Japan, whatever the profit they make, 10% will be donated to other projects. Because again, people would like to be useful, and they would like to be connected bigger than their own village. So like Japan, the volunteer older person went to Philippines after the Typhoon Yolanda happened. And they also send money to Nepal for money to help. So we looked at like eight principle, and we just try to create the positive place experience. So it says normalcy, just like try to create the normalcy. But the place is not merely a space. It is a space. It consists of spatial, technical, and sensory properties. It's actually how people use it. And if you're individual, if it's group, if you're organization, the place experience changes. So how people actually create space differently. So we use the same principles. And the community member came up with completely different shapes and the program, and some because of the limited, finance, some because it's a cultural differences. So this is in Japan after tsunami happened. This was in Philippines. This was in after the Typhoon Yolanda. This one it was Nepal after the earthquake. So how did elders actually implement these 8 principles? This is the rice the stove. It's a traditional rice stove. After the tsunami happened, all the just electricity, water stopped, and they had some water and the rice. But young people didn't know how to cook rice. Do you know how to cook rice with fire? I need a rice cooker with electricity. So what happened is that, when the disaster happens like this, older people's experience becomes so resilient. because it doesn't rely on to electricity and water. We don't really pay enough attention. We rely too much on the technology. But if the only technology without people's knowledge, then if something happens like this, it's useless. So we really have to think about how we can revalue the knowledge as a part of resilient solutions. So this is the part of normalcy. This is a typical day of ibasho in Japan. So I really like these photos because this shows that everybody does completely different things. They don't have to do like a Tai Chi as 30 people or, Zumba as 30 people. Children always play video games. And older ladies singing a song. There's having a little like a newspaper interviews. But just like a space can be used by whatever you want to do. And when you think about this, when you think about senior places for children or places for senior, people expect you to show up for exercise, you to show up for certain activities to do the same thing together. But that's not what we want. So we wanted to bring the normalcy back. And this is a community partnership. So this is typical way of co-creation. The people who I work with, a lot of people cannot read and write. So we do a lot of drawings. And we also bring children to be an interpreter to really bring the resources in the community. And this is another community ownership. In order to sustain the operation, elders in Japan actually, they grow vegetables, and then they quickly realize they have to sell it, otherwise it doesn't mean anything. So they decided to sell and the bi-weekly farmers market, and they realized, maybe other people can do the same thing and we can charge the space. So that's how they actually run for the community ownership. So we don't give any money. They actually write sometimes grants money, or they sell ramen noodles, and they also sell vegetables to really make money so that they can run by themselves. And intergenerational, when we do a workshop, we always bring children and older person to decide what they want to do together. When these days intergenerational activities are very popular. A lot of people talk about this. But, young people don't necessarily want to hang out with older people. Yeah. So what we try to do, children will come. This is a safe place from their parents to play video game freely. They come every day, and when come more than 5 times, they get to talk to the older person because they want to have water out of them, or they just happen to be there, so they just have friendship and relationship. To me, it is, if any of you are in the architecture field, I always just try to convey my suggestions that, place can actually provide opportunity for people to naturally meet. That's where the real relationship grows, actually. So if we have this kind of place, I see a lot that like 10 children, one side of the table, the older person the other side of the table, and they have to talk. What do you talk, really? So we really need to think about what's the role of the space, actually, the place. If it's intentionally designed, then actually we can create meaningful relationship. So demarginalization, these people are all severe dementia, actually. The person with dementia, they are there. And I always get the question, how do you monitor them, right? Older people with dementia, they run. And I said, can you run faster than the older person? If you can, don't worry about it, right? Because we designed a space that is pretty visible from outside. So if someone 85 years old with dementia will stand up and just try to escape, and if you can't catch it, then you have some problem. And also it is the size that matters. If it's small enough that you can look at, like see visibly, then it's okay. And another one is a culturally appropriate place. So again, this is in Japan, it's a tea ceremony. I must tell you, I don't know how to do it, so was my parents. But the local older person can actually teach children how to do the culturally appropriate sort of activities, ikebana and tea ceremony. And you can actually see all the young ladies, they are learning. So, those are the important aspect of value that we have to re-look at it and just revalue and just sustain it. So when I talk to the older person, what do you want to do? They normally said, oh, I'm good, I'm old enough, I'm good. But if I said, so what would you like to leave behind for your children? And they said, oh, healthier planet or the cleaner place. So every single time when we do the project, people would like to do some environmentally sustainable, kind of activities. So this is biodynamic, this is organic food growing. In the Philippines, they're cleaning up all the plastic. And they actually collect all the plastic, exchange it to small change. And that's how they raise enough money to feed homeless children. So that makes them feel better. So maybe we have some architects, so I decided to give a little floor plans. It's a small place. It's like 8 meters and 15 meters around. So it's not a big place. This is how it looks like. It's a little bit messy, but makes it home. Especially the kitchen is always, sort of messy. And the older people actually keep building stuff. So what we try to do is to not complete the environment 100% so that community members can complete it to make their own. So this is a ramen noodle shop, and they have bookshelf. And I probably see like 7 times that it was changed. Did I really need to do it? No. But they want to change because they want to just make their own space. But it is very important because when they feel like they own the space, they will start to invite their friends and they will start to show off the space together. That's how they come out from their own home. So another way is that because it was all 3 of them are in the disaster sites, and what we realized that was the evacuation map was not appropriate for the older people. It's not even appropriate for me. I'm 55. The regular city, evacuation map is just too much. I can't run that fast. But, reality is that we have one evacuation map for everyone. And how can we change it? And we decided we just invite all these older people to come in and just revise this. And it just a city evacuation map has changed. But at the same time, what's important, the lesson was 2 things. One, the people who came, they don't have to look at the map any longer. The exercise, the workshop by itself is most important. Because when you think about it, when you have a really bad earthquake, maybe if you're Japanese, you know what's talking about. But a bad earthquake is terrible. Everything goes down, so you don't know where the radio is. Everything is all over the place. You won't have opportunity to think, oh, there's a bad earthquake, where's the evacuation map? Normally you don't have that kind of time to think. And when you think about that, you don't know where they are, really. So what's very important is that we just give them opportunity to really talk about it so they can actually remember what to do. And also this whole place became an evacuation site because the people decided, I just want to know where to go, and the where to go should be somewhere always. So when I was in Hawaii, did the same workshop one time and said, so where do you evacuate when you have earthquake and tsunami in Oahu? They're like, we don't know. What are you going to do? I think we don't know. But I have a feeling that all of us in this room have somewhat in that sense that, you feel like we know, but we just don't exactly know. So I think just resilient hub that people talk about, we don't really need to have brand new space to build it, because people have to know immediately where to go. That means that it's a place where people go every day. So that's the kind of place we were told. So this is in Nepal, we did the same. And Nepal was interesting because we didn't have map. So we needed to create a map to begin with. So all these older people and everybody is just like making a map. It's just not scaled. But it tells you which road is much more important than others and which houses are bigger than others. So what they created was they wanted to know where to evacuate, and they didn't know where. So they had an opportunity to say, okay, if this happens, this is where we're going to evacuate. And then they put a little board and put the map. And it's right next to the bus station, because they said bus station is somewhere that everybody goes every time. So that's the kind of, so for me, that was a kind of like a learning that I learned, because all this system, that city has all this fancy system for evacuation. And what we've learned, we have done this study, and I think it was a part of the Red Cross in Japan. When we asked for questions like, why you decided to evacuate and when? Can you guess? Why one decide to evacuate after the tsunami happens? The earthquake happens. They said, because my neighbor said I should evacuate. At the time of crisis, the person who you know with your first name basis are the ones that you rely on for your informations. So there is actually the research for the social capital research, right? The community that has people who know each other in first name basis, they bounce back faster, or they just bounce back. People are coming back, but the people who don't know each other, they have a higher impact of getting injured or killed. So I think we just have to think about the system, not only to rely on to high tech, but really looking into what older people can offer as a part of a solution. So basically, this is a theory of change. We are just trying to empower older person to create the gathering space where they can actually take care of people. If Japanese, we call it osekkai, which is unnecessary care, which there are a lot of older people in Japan, they like to do that. But those are the things that just connect people, and that actually create a social capital that to prepare for natural disaster and the global aging. So we have done some evaluation in Japan. So what we found was that part of the Ibasho, they have higher sense of control. They have more friends. They have higher sense of belonging to their neighborhood. So how it was being accommodated, this is in Japan. This is in Philippines. And this is in Nepal. And we just created one in Singapore. People are asking me about health district. That's a part of the work that we worked on. This was the very first time we worked with a social organization, not community-led. So we have done all this workshop to come up with ideas, what we want to do and how we want to design. We have people from Takenaka. They actually helped us for design and the construction. Thank you so much. So we designed together. And so we, just empower older people to give them a voice. And there are a lot, actually, older people, especially women in Singapore. They were so quiet for the first 2-3 times. And third, 4 times, I've learned that Singaporean older lady talks. But, you just have to give them opportunity, and we have to trust them to really tell us what they want to do. And they actually do digital clinic. So young people will teach older person to help other older person. And the handicraft, she provide upcycling. And they also like to do cooking sharing and the movie screen. So this is one of the many projects that they would like to do as a community members. These are not delivered by organization, but the community member themselves. So this is a governance structure we have. So we have Ibasho Face Act, which is a social organization, and we have core members supported by Ibasho, us, and experts like architects and university professors there, and social organization and community members. And we have treasurers, and so all the system is there. And again, people are saying that can older people do it? Of course they can. You know, there are, the treasurer is from the NUS faculty members, right? So there are always people in the community are there. So I just wanted to give you a little timeline. So it does take time. So I'm not really giving you a flowery thing and said, oh, this can be done in 6 months. No, actually. It takes about 2 years for the community development as a basic. And they will kick off, and it takes probably 2-3 years to set it up. So suggestion, and based on our learning, we should really implement the policy framework that support elder-led initiative and empower older person, because the policy doesn't really encourage and we cannot really continue. Second one is advocate importance of co-design with older people. I don't think we do enough because we don't really include the person with dementia, especially into the community discussion. And we need a collaboration between policymakers, designers, and researchers. And we need a collaborative decision-making between social organization and community members. And we should really design adaptable space that promote interaction for the community members to make their own way. And we have to really create a consultative culture where people can start small. I think we just push ourselves too much to start perfect. But can we just do one thing and maybe 3 people and start doing something? That's the kind of idea we need. So the 3 growth elements for the successful creation. This is not a theory. I just wanted to show it to you because I have to tell myself this is a personal growth. You cannot control people. You cannot control society. So we all have to, 3 parts of the growth that requires. The place that we design, 80%, maybe 75%, can grow to 100 by the community members. And the process, people learn how to take ownership. That's another growth. And us, for people who facilitate the community work, we all have to learn to grow because it's not about us. We have a tendency to think that I want to do this, but it is not about us. So it is a growth. So why do we need this approach? Because people are, talked about economic burden and the climate change and social isolations happening and lack of workforce. So what Ibasho tried to do is to really change the perception and the society that meet the societal needs. So far, older care is society will decide, the policy will be decided and look after the older person. And the family members are the one normally provide the care. But you saw the statistics. That circle is gone in many places. And then what we do, we try to strengthen the community power so that older people individually, they're actually a part of the community regardless of their family members. What can we do is something that we are always thinking about that. And also it has to be both ways. I think it used to be that elder care was passive. We should really think about both ways. So one of the research that we are working on is how Ibasho in Japan was successful. One of the things we wanted to look at, how did people decide to come in? They come in to participate activities, and some eat together, some visit people, some people will sell and share information and use facilities like use bathroom. And the last one is being a part of operations. And I'm making this red circle because the senior center that we have, we only provide activities, nothing else. So I really hope that we can actually create the space where people have so many things to be motivated to be a part of it. So I just wanted to show you some examples that it's happening in Japan. It's more than what we do in Japan. for us. So this is one of the example. It's called Kasugadai Center. It's a very strange name. This is run by a social organization. This small place, it used to be a supermarket, and they turned it into like 5 functions in here. It's a group home for dementia. They have daycare center for children and daycare center for older person, and they have laundromat and they have ice cream shop. Why is this place very popular? Because they are all connected but separated. Nicely designed, actually. So this is a place where you can actually see children walking around and running around. And when the children are running around, older people start to come in. So when you come in, you see like ice cream and also like a croquet, and it's made by the person with disabilities. So they have job opportunities, right? And the people normally, like the children will come and sit around. And you see this, actually, I took photo when I was there. So the children comes on the way back and get together and do anything, they just play. And one of my friends said, oh, they're not doing any activities with older people. And I said, why do they have to always have activities with older people? Children has to be playing, right? That's what they do. And we asked these children, like, why do you come here? They said, because it's a nice place to stay. I can play here without my mom scolding me for video game. But sometimes from our mind as an institutional mindset thinks that we have to facilitate with children and older people, make a program, but we don't have to. And you just use the laundry mat and for the community members to come. But I found that it was quite fascinating to see all the seating space. It really makes a big difference throughout. It's so people don't have to go in, but you can sit outside and look what's inside. This is like a Sento, which is a Japanese bath. They created a co-working space for young children for older people to run, actually. And this is one of the older, like HDB estate, almost in Japanese place. So they created the first floor as a gathering space so that people can actually gather. And again, this is an evacuation center if something happens. So they also sell just neighborhood is selling vegetables, and they have kitchen car if they cannot have the restaurants. And this is older person just enjoying the organic garden. And again, this is a nursing home, children's daycare, and schools all mixed. Again, this can only be done because the policy will support it. And this is in the health district in Margaret Drive. We created a community touch point and try and see what community member wants to know and what they want to do, because we do all this community development. And health district, we try to promote health. 3 years later, when you talk to the community member in Queenstown, have you heard about the health district? Most of them are like, what? what are you doing? So what we decided to do is to create funky looking things that people has to come and ask, what is this place? And then we have chance to talk about health districts. And also we can ask them like, okay, have you thought about what you want to do with your friend? You can actually use it here. And they just try to educate people that we have a community space where they can actually occupy. So there are some design patterns that I found. It's the image of non-institutional space is very important. The place where children can simply play, and visual access to the interior space from outside. Easy to walk into the room and find seating. Differentiate space without walls. So we just give a little space, maybe change the pattern of the floor. And normal and attractive environment. Availability of food and drinks, and regular presence of community members. If it's only institutional people sitting there, people don't go in. And multifunctional and mixed use. So moving forward, we should really think about how we can co-create inclusive community where diverse people naturally interact and care for one another. And also we really have to think about what the private sector and other social welfare organizations' roles are, and what's the generational difference that we can actually accommodate, and how can we create a system that really is supportive for sustainability. So I would actually like to end with this. My questions. I've been working on the aging and design for aging. And we try to create protecting others. Like we try to protect, create a place to provide space and service for elders, right? And offer specially designed services. And all these things we try to do. But when you think about it, when you don't carefully pay attention, these are the kind of design that we might create a sense of dependency and ageism, stigma, segregation, and social isolations. I think these are the questions that we really have to be careful about to ourselves. So my question is, what is the role of experts? Because we are all here as an expert of something to help others, but what is our role? If we're not careful enough, again, we might create ageism ourselves. So this is my learned lesson. What I've learned, this is from Japan actually, the community is something that we have to negotiate and create with others, not something that we can passively receive. And again, what is the expert's role? I would like to leave that question. Today I talked a lot about community work, but that's not all we do. We have researchers sitting in the back. We have a Center for Environment and Aging Well researchers. We're working on the senior housing typology work and ageism work. And I think other environmental issues and architecture and climate change research is going on. So please visit us in Engage website and stop by at the office. And thank you so much.
Welcome to the future.